Debbie, you were saying something during the break you want to ask Bob?
We all need more freedom, so we all need to be a part of that. So I want to encourage everyone to go and participate in the conference. And Bob, I want to talk about specific strongholds for a few minutes. In your book, you talk about a woman who was bound up with some strongholds, been sexually abused, and the effect that it had on her body and the transformation that happened there. Can you give us a little of that today?
Yeah, you know, one of the most wonderful things about what I get to do is sitting across from people or sitting in a room full of people and seeing those kind of life transformations. I will never get tired of seeing people changed in those kinds of ways. You're talking about one of those stories that really changed me as much as it changed her. And what happened, story. Very powerful. And I watched it unfold in front of my eyes over a period of weeks. The short version of it would be that she just had an atrocious, terrible history of abuse. Every male in her family, and you know, you could use your imagination and still not come up with the kinds of terrible things that had happened to her. But when I met her in her mid-30s, she was angry and kind of hard and almost masculine looking. And just, in fact, her anger would often come to a place of just outbursts of violence. And you know, she had tried and tried to stop and tried to change. And what happens to us is we're often trying very hard but using the wrong tools. Just using our will to change our behavior isn't enough. Well, here are the things that happened for her. And there were two real significant turning points for her, and one of them had to do with forgiveness. You know, when you've been through that kind of pain, when you've had those kind of terrible things happen to you, your heart gets hard, and the wounds of that, those wounds stay with you. And those wounds make a place for the enemy to lie and operate and to continue to push you further into believing that lie. Well, when she began to genuinely forgive, and here's what I mean by genuinely forgive. You know, the cross of Jesus is the turning point of all history, not just globally, but personally. I've heard you tell your story, and I know my story, that's the turning point of all history.
That's it.
And I know that Jesus died to forgive my sins, but I also have come to understand that the cross is also a place where the sins committed against me can also be deposited.
Wow, that's good.
And so when she began to realize that the terrible things that had been done to her, that she could actually let Jesus take those things, that forgiving wasn't just her trying to swallow hard and try again to be nice, but it was really letting the cross do the work of the cross. That she could take the pain and the fear and the lies of that period of her life and just let Jesus begin to lift those things off of her. That's the first big change for her. Well, the second thing, and this is really where I talk about it in the book, is there was a big lie. You know, we talk about in our freedom ministry, we talk about helping people recognize core lies. You know, there's lies that are just surface, you know, bad doctrine, someone told me I'm not nice, whatever it might be. But core lies are when there's lies at the very center of the enemy trying to tell us, this is who you are, or you'll never be this, you're horrible. Well, she had this core lie that women are weak and women are victims. And so she made this vow in her heart, I'll never be a woman because they're weak and they're victims. And here's the part of the story you're talking about. In her mid-30s, after forgiving her family and really coming to grips and face-to-face with this core lie and beginning to call it a lie and receive truth about her identity as a woman, within that week, for the first time in 36 years of life, she had a menstrual cycle which she'd never had before.
Wow.
And from that point on, she began to soften and carry herself in a different way, and just in front of my eyes over weeks ahead of that, become more and more feminine. Well,
see, that to me, that is amazing too, because what you're saying is that her spiritual condition affected her physical condition as well. And I wonder how many times we have physical diseases, sicknesses, ailments, you know, just being tired all the time, recurring sicknesses, and they actually have a spiritual root. Have you seen that as well?
Again and again and again. In fact, one of the most common things we see in our healing ministry is that unforgiveness is often the root of many people's suffering. Now, I don't want to put that on everybody who's suffering, but certainly almost every time we see change in a spiritual stronghold, we also see change in their thinking, we see change in their physical condition, their physical functioning. Often in our healing ministry, we're pursuing what is the spiritual root of the physical condition this person's dealing with.
And we really believe that every person needs freedom ministry.
Absolutely.
We don't believe like, okay, you're a bad person because you need freedom ministry. every person born in this world that is in this sin-sick, fallen world has had things happen to them, maybe not to the degree this woman had happened to her, but we've all had hurts, abuses, and that's what caused. As a matter of fact, at Gateway, every week we have Freedom Ministry, right? Every